So hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome back to Favourites Week, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite plays. So this was actually one of my hardest lists to come up with because there are so many plays that I love. Like, I remember a year and a half ago not finding it too hard to come up with my top 5 favourite plays, but there are so many plays that are like nearly on this list, or that were like fighting with other plays on this list. All of these plays, bar one, I have seen in the theatre. Some of them I have read, but a lot of them I have only ever seen in the theatre and have never read. But for me, plays are a stage thing, so that's okay. But like I said, there is one play here that I have read but never seen, and that is number 10, All My Sons by Arthur Miller. This is a play I studied at uni in my first year at university, and I absolutely loved it. And All My Sons follows this family shortly after the Second World War. One of the sons has gone missing during the Second World War, and it kind of follows this family dealing with this and also dealing with what they may have done or not done right in the Second World War. It is such a powerful play and I love it. Like, I loved studying this one at university because it's so powerful, so emotionally impactful, and such an interesting kind of like character study of the main character. I love it a lot. Arthur Miller, I think, writes fantastic plays, and this is my favourite by him. It's one that I really love and I would highly recommend reading, and it's one that I really hope I get to see at some point in my life. At number 9, I have A Doll's House by Ibsen. I really struggled working out which Ibsen play to put on here because I love Ibsen a lot. Of the 4 plays by him that I have seen, A Doll's House, Hedda Gabler, Ghosts and Rosmersholm, I love all of them. And it was really hard for me to pick a favourite, but I think it would have to be A Doll's House, which is the one that I read first. Sometimes I think it should be Hedda Gabler, which I also really love, and when I was at university studying them both, I think Hedda Gabler was the one I preferred, but actually A Doll's House has stuck with me a little bit more, and like the final scene is so impactful, and like the whole thing of it is just so powerful. A Doll's House looks at a woman living in late 19th century society. She is married, she has several children, and she has spent all her life being happy-ish. And then this book follows what happens when she begins to realise that maybe she has been really confined by the role that society has given her, and that maybe this life that she has isn't the life that she wants and isn't a life that is true to her, and maybe she just does what her husband tells her and is very trapped. It's feminist and individualist and powerful and immensely incredible, and I love it so much, and there are so many like fantastic speeches in it, and so many things in it that I just think are incredible. I've seen it once performed live and I really loved it. I thought it was really good, though I loved reading it even more actually, which is quite rare for me for a play. But yeah, I just think this is such an incredible play, really powerful, and yeah, I love Ibsen a lot. I would recommend everything by him. At number 8, I have The Three Sisters by Chekhov. This, again, was one that it was hard for me to pick a favourite Chekhov, and even now I'm like, should it be The Cherry Orchard? But I didn't have space on this list for both The Cherry Orchard and The Three Sisters, just as I didn't have space on this list for everything by Ibsen. And I think The Three Sisters probably is my favourite. This I studied at university. I also studied The Cherry Orchard at university. I've also seen both of them on stage, and I've also seen Uncle Vanya and Ivanov and Platonov or Wild Honey. The Three Sisters is an amazing play. We follow 3 sisters who live in kind of provincial Russia, and they dream and have always dreamed of going back to Moscow, which is where their family is from, and they kind of use the idea of going back to Moscow as this big sort of pipe dream, and we follow kind of their relationships with each other and all the people around them, and how like their kind of lives are not quite working out as they thought they would be. Chekhov writes really brilliantly like poignant plays about the kind of difficulty of having a good life and the difficulty of people truly expressing themselves to each other. Chekhov's writing can be incredibly tragic and incredibly beautifully tragic, but he also writes brilliantly about kind of the political situation of turn of the century Russia in such a fascinating way. I'm really interested in Russian history, and I think Chekhov's plays are just absolutely amazing. So yeah, would highly recommend everything by Chekhov, but The Three Sisters is amazing. At number 7, I have A Woman of No Importance by Oscar Wilde. This is my favourite Oscar Wilde play and such a brilliant play. This follows various characters, including a young man who kind of befriends various people and ends up befriending a man who his mother says, oh no, I don't want you to see that man. I'm not going to tell you why, I really don't think you should see that man anymore. And then we discover that there may be a bit of a past to this young man's mother that he does not know anything about. There's a lot of characters and quite a few subplots as well. There are a lot of things I love about Woman of No Importance. One of the things I love about it is that it is really proto-feminist, and the way it looks at the position of women in Victorian society, and and the way women are treated and the way kind of double standards exist between men and women's behaviour is just brilliant. It's also incredibly funny. Oscar Wilde writes such brilliant, hilarious dialogue. It's a play I would just so recommend. I have seen it on stage and I didn't love it on stage as much as I loved reading it because I think they played it too farcical, and actually one of the things I love about Woman of No Importance is that the first half is really funny, and in the second half you're like, oh no, actually this isn't funny anymore, something terrible is about to happen, and it all becomes very dramatic, and I love that. Anyway, at number 6 I have Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. This is a brilliant Shakespeare play and I love it. I think it is fantastic. It tells the story of Julius Caesar, sort of. Mostly it tells the story of Brutus and Cassius and the men who conspire to assassinate Caesar. And the story of kind of the war and the difficulties that follow. It's a play about power and also about like morality and conscience and where lines of morality lie, and it is so powerful. I've seen several productions of Julius Caesar. I've seen it on stage I think 3 or 4 times. Many productions I've seen have been fantastic, but none have been better than the production at the Bridge Theatre, which was on in London last year, which was just amazing. So dramatic and so exciting, and they did so many clever things with the plot. Ben Whishaw was a terrifying Brutus. It was very distressing to hear Paddington like threatening people with a gun, but it was still amazing. Julius Caesar I love so much, and that stage production just made me love it even more. At number 5 I have Flare Path by Terence Rattigan. This I have never read. It is a play that I saw in the theatre several years ago. I think I was about 17, and it's just stayed with me so much. I love Terence Rattigan. Everything I've seen by him has been fantastic, but Flare Path is the first one I saw and I still love it so much. It is set during the Second World War in a hotel. It follows like various characters. It's incredibly like emotive and emotionally powerful with so many interesting subplots going on, and such an interesting exploration of the Second World War and its impact on people. Terence Rattigan just writes beautifully. His plotting and his characterization is so well done, and he's very good at writing plays that can both be funny but also like intensely powerful and distressing at the same time. And the way like some of the bits in Flare Path connected with the Second World War are just so moving and powerful. I love it so much. At number 4 I have Every Good Boy Deserves Favour by Tom Stoppard. This is another one that I have not read. I saw in the theatre as a teenager and just it's stayed with me quite a lot since. I've seen other things by Tom Stoppard, which I didn't love very much at all, to be honest, but this play I love. And one of the reasons why I love it is because it is performed with a full orchestra on stage, and the way this play uses music is amazing. It is set in a psychiatric hospital in Russia during the Soviet era, and some of the people in this psychiatric hospital are there because they disagree with the government, and therefore they have been put there to be kept out of the way. And we follow various characters here, including one person who thinks that there is an orchestra around him and that he is conducting an orchestra, hence why there is an orchestra on stage, and one person who is there as a sort of political prisoner. As I said, I'm very interested in Russian history and I really like this as well, and I think the way this play uses music and like the way the orchestra worked on stage at the production at the National Theatre, which I saw several times and it was on many years ago, I just thought was incredible and just so amazing and so well done. At number 3 I have another Shakespeare play, and that is A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now I think Julius Caesar is a better play than A Midsummer Night's Dream, but A Midsummer Night's Dream is my favourite, and I think it will just always be my favourite Shakespeare because it has a stronghold in my heart. It's one of the ones I've seen the most, and I believe it is the first Shakespeare play I ever saw when I was probably about 5 or 6, definitely quite a young child I think the first time I saw Midsummer Night's Dream. This is a fantastic Shakespeare play, and we follow various characters who are kind of banished to the forest because they can't get on with their own love lives, and while they're in a kind of weird love square, the spirits who live in the forest decide that they're going to play even more havoc with these people's love lives and start like casting spells on them, and everything kind of goes a little bit crazy from there. I love Midsummer Night's Dream, mostly because of Puck. Puck is one of the spirits, and I think he is such a fantastic, hilarious, wonderful character. I love all the mischief that goes on in A Midsummer Night's Dream. I love the hilarity that ensues because of it. I just think it's such a brilliant play, and yeah, I love it a lot. I've seen many productions of A Midsummer Night's Dream, as I said. Some of my favourites include one with all the music from Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream. So Mendelssohn, the composer, wrote like a whole suite of pieces of music inspired by Midsummer Night's Dream, and I've seen a production of the show which was put on with all of that music, which was just incredible. I really like Mendelssohn. Then I've also seen a production in Regent's Park open air theatre, which was really cool because it was sort of in a forest. And I've seen another production which was in an open air theatre in Chester, which was also really cool to have it open air because it felt a bit foresty. And they had two twins playing Puck, which meant that it seemed like Puck could be in two places at once, which was really, really, really clever and really, really cool. At number 2, I have A Long Day's Journey into Night by Eugene O'Neill. This is a fantastic play, not a cheerful one, but just amazing. I've seen it twice on stage and just absolutely adored it. A Long Day's Journey into Night is an early 20th century American play, and it tells the story of a family and their struggle over one day of the course of their life. They have a lot of problems. The mother and father and their two grown-up sons. One of the grown-up sons and his father drink too much, and the father has kind of always had a particular way of viewing the family, which sometimes causes complications and difficulties, especially between him and his eldest son. The younger son is very, very ill and slowly getting more ill, and then the mother of the family has a history of drug addiction, and over the course of this night, you just watch everything go from bad to worse, and it's just incredibly beautiful and amazing and so miserable, like so awfully, painfully miserable, but so, so good. I just love it so much. I studied this at university and I just absolutely fell in love with it as a play. I think Eugene O'Neill is a fantastic writer, but this is my favourite one by him, and this is just absolutely amazing. Finally, I have Spring Storm by Tennessee Williams, the only one I have a physical copy of. This is my favourite play, I think. This is one of the few plays I own a physical copy of, so that's a good sign. This is a Tennessee Williams play. It is not one of his well-known plays. Many of his plays are much more well-known, but this was one of his early plays, which wasn't put on much in his lifetime, but the National Theatre did a production of it when I was a teenager, and I went to see it and I loved it a lot. And it really, really spoke to me on like so many levels, but there are so many things in this play that I love, and I loved it so much when I saw it that I went out and bought myself a physical copy of it, which is not something that I did and do with plays very often because I tend to watch them rather than read them, but I desperately wanted to read this immediately after I had seen it, and then I reread it again last year, I think, and really enjoyed that too. It follows a woman called Heavenly who lives in a small town America, and she is in love with a young man called Dick, who loves her too, but wants different things from life from her. He wants an adventure and she wants stability. And then another young man comes into town called Arthur, who Heavenly begins to think might be a better fit for her. But there's also a young woman called Hertha who is in love with Arthur, who is a librarian and a fantastic character. And it just ends up being like this big mess where everything is going wrong. And there's so many interesting things in this book in terms of like growing up at this point in America, kind of people feeling left behind by the world, sort of expectations between people, gender roles, like so many fascinating things in here going on. I just love it a lot. It's not necessarily that happy, but it's so, so powerful and I love it. It's also, in fact, where my channel name comes from, if you were ever wondering. What are you thinking about? Pardon? I said, what are you thinking about? Oh, things? Books and things? No. Just books? No. Oh, just things. That's nice. I wish I could think about things. And there's quite a few points, I think, in the play where Heavenly talks about books and things as this kind of like catch-all phrase to refer to everything that Arthur is interested in, which is books and also like other intellectual related things, I guess. And she just uses like books and things to refer to that. So that's where my channel name comes from, if you're wondering. Anyway, that is my favourite play. And that is the end of the video. Those are my 10 favourite plays. I love them all a lot. Please let me know down in the comments if you've seen or read any of these plays and what you thought of them, and also let me know what your favourite play is. I would love to know. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.